Welcome back to Talking Story. You know, yesterday was Valentine's Day, and I hope everybody spent the time with their significant other, their partner, comparing them to a summer's day. I'm sure that they were all as beautiful and twice as temperate, and it got me to thinking. I have gotten so many unbelievable recommendations from all of you guys through comments and other booktubers telling me what I've missed, and I have read some amazing books, and I have found some amazing couples and some amazing romance in these books and these reads. So I thought, since it is February, since yesterday was Valentine's Day, I wanted to put together a top 10 list of my favorite romances that I've stumbled across on these reads since I got onto BookTube. But when I started trying to organize them, I just couldn't do it. It was like comparing an apple pie to a cathedral. They were each their individual own beautiful thing. I could not rank them. It is not possible. So I have a list of these are my top 10 favorite romances that I've stumbled upon while I have been on BookTube for these past almost 9 months now, and they are in no order. And when I say apple pie to a cathedral, I mean, that old school McDonald's apple pie when they actually dropped it in the deep fryer and it would bubble and be crispy and it would scald you with its goodness, like that kind of unbelievable blue ribbon winning apple pie in a cathedral. You got it, it's a cathedral. Okay, so with no further ado, let's just jump right in. The first one I am gonna do, one of my top romances since I've been on BookTube. I have to go with From the Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell. And you would think this would be Arthur and Guinevere, but no, I was smitten by the love of Derfel and Sinwin, how he actually had to make the decision to go with Merlin and the dark magic and to actually go all in on that spell so his lady love would actually be in his life forevermore. It was so romantic. It was the one thing that could push him over the edge and actually make him go against his brotherhood and go against his friend and go against his duty and his honor, the true love he had to have. It was absolutely beautiful, and to watch them go on and create her a princess and him just an everyman, that we got to see these icons moving across these screens through his eyes because we have the eyes of an everyman, and just to be able to build a timeless love from that point of view in the book all the way to the end. He was able to build a life with her and have children with her. And of course, tragedy would strike, but they would overcome. And I was just floored by that romance and the long-lasting nature of it and the purity of it and the pure romance of how he had to choose it. Bravo. Next, I have to go with From Ascendant, the Song of Chaos series by Michael R. Miller, Holt, Cook, and Talia. I had to pull something from this. I was so struck by this world where the actual magic system is based on connection and empathy and understanding one to another as this young boy from the kitchens connects himself to his dragon. But I'm not talking about his connection to the dragon here. I'm talking the connection to Talia, his partner on the road after tragedy strikes and they have to set out. Let me tell you what I just hit me with this. So many times when an author will write younger characters, they get moony-eyed with each other and everything drops away and they just can't help themselves and it's overpowering. No, the stakes are so high here in this world that Michael R. Miller has created. The two characters, Holt, Cook, and Talia, even though they're from different spectrums of their world, aristocracy and the kitchens, even though they're thrown together, even though there are sparks, I think, building, embers being fanned as they move on this quest together to save their world, they never lose sight of their destiny, their duty, their honor, their familial commitments, all these things that kind of stand in the way of these embers from being fan to full flame. They actually stay true to themselves. They actually start to build an understanding and a friendship and a long-lasting relationship. Maybe as the series continues, we can see a love blossom that we would absolutely be so rooting for because we've waited for it, and they stayed true to themselves and not just lost themselves by their youth and lost their heads. They stayed true to each other. They are building this amazing respective relationship. I absolutely love that it was an adult take on younger characters as they are thrown into this tragedy and moving through it together. Bravo to Michael R. Miller. Next, I just read this. There is no way I could not pick a romance from this. From A Song for Our Bond by Guy Gavriel Kay, I have to go with Bertrand Taylor and Elise. Yes, this love, no spoilers, I'm not saying it is interwoven through the entire book, but yet it completely is. There is a secret between these two, a hidden, mysterious secret where they will meet. Even though they are star-crossed lovers, and they should not, they cannot help themselves in this world that answers only to beauty and poetry and troubadours and love. They meet together, and in so doing, they set a series of dominoes falling that will affect their world years and years and years and years into the future by this one moment that they cannot stop themselves from. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely wonderful. It shows how one act of love can change a world. And I just have to do the beauty of this. Once this moment has started and then tragedy has struck and is lost, we have Bertrand lamenting an aging Lothario who's tried to fill this hole that it has left, just standing on a stairwell looking out the window at the moon, waxing philosophic with 23 years. So much longer than I thought I would live, actually. And the God knows, and sweet Rian knows I've tried, but in 23 years, I've never yet found a woman to equal her or take away the memory, even for one night. Come on. Hit me right here. Love that character. Love that moment of passion that they are not able to stay away from. Love that it sets everything in motion. Makes my 10 list for sure. Now, I've said it before, I will say it again. Brandon Sanderson is an unbelievable romantic. He uses the same type of scenario over and over again. A princess leaving her kingdom to another kingdom for an arranged marriage. It's going to save both kingdoms. He's set this up so many times. He gives a little bit different spin here and there. But which one am I going to pick for my top 10 romance? I know a lot of you are not going to like this take, but I have to go with Mistborn from Era 1. I'm talking about Vin and Alon. I know the much more popular pick would be Warbreaker, but I have to go with Mistborn Era 1, Vin and Alon. And why? It's not a princess leaving her comfortable existence, but it's somebody who has completely cocooned herself. She has cocooned herself in comfort. She has cocooned herself and put herself in a corner in a wallflower situation, and she has accepted being small. She's accepted from her trauma, not pushing herself out very far into the world, and in so doing, getting wrapped up in this caper to bring down the Dark One, she has to come out of her shell. She has to find another partner that has been buried in his books and buried in theory of politics. And when they start to meet and they start to mingle and they start to become more than them, when they come together and then they start to fully blossom, I absolutely love the romance of Vin and Alon. It spoke to me her moving past her trauma and probably the PTSD that has kept her in this corner, and then she fully flourishes through the what she has to do for this caper. And when she meets Alon, it's like the sun hitting a beautiful plant for the first time. And Alon, the same way, is pulled out of his books, is pulled out of this theory, is pulled into the real world by this relationship and what's going on with this world. And they support each other so unbelievably. It just hit me. I love the romance of Vin and Alon through Mistborn Era 1. Let's go over to another pick. Now, I was reading this before BookTube, but I read it during BookTube as well. I'm talking about from the Matthew Corbett series by Robert McCammon, Matthew Corbett and Barry Grigsby. Sherlock Holmesian level detective. You start with him as a young man. He starts to go to New York in the late 1600s. He starts to take on these cases. He starts to bring down these horrible villains. It would have to be somebody every bit the equal of him. Somebody saucy, somebody spicy, somebody brilliant, somebody who happens to be the granddaughter of the person that rents him his apartment, that is there, that pulls him out into the society of New York City, that he cannot, even though he thinks to himself he should not be drawn in, he cannot stop himself. And in the Seven Shades of Evil book of short stories that we just had, she's every bit of firebrand as Matthew is himself. Now that they've gone on these adventures together and we're coming to the last final book, and I just know he's going to come back because she's waiting for him in New York. And I hope the wedding is a major part of that last book, or him returning to her is a major part of that last book, because they are so great together. And I have been rooting for them for so long, even though his head has been turned here and there by other femme fatales. It has always been the wonderful, nice granddaughter of who rents him his apartment all along, and finds out what a firebrand she truly is. And just absolutely wonderful romance. Here, let's move on to another one. Okay, this may not be a popular pick either, but I had to do it because I absolutely loved it. This is from the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I'm going with Logan Nine Fingers, The Bloody Nine, and Pharaoh. I adored how these two, thrown into this quest, found each other, found each other's passion, found each other's soft side, found that how brutal they were, how hard they were, how tough they were, everything they've had to do to overcome this brutal world that they've been a part of starts to melt away just a little when they are with each other. I was so rooting for them to end up each other, but of course, this world doesn't reward softness. But I absolutely loved the time they spent together. I absolutely loved how they became more than friends, how they became more than just single as a couple, how they started to realize some of the soft things could give you strength and not just pull away from your hardness. It absolutely spoke to me. I absolutely loved those moments between them. And for me, it was a great, great romance. This may be another hot take on my part because I did this in a buddy read and I heard a lot of hate on Discord about this romance, but it really just touched me and I loved it. I'm talking about from the Empire Trilogy by Raymond E. Feist and Janny Wirtz, Lady Mara and Kevin. Yes, there was a lot of Kevin haters on Discord while we read this trilogy. Yes, he was an oaf. Yes, he was hyper-masculine. Yeah, all of those things he absolutely was. But at the same time, it just spoke to me. Lady Mara, it doesn't matter if you're from a ruling house. It doesn't matter if you're from an entirely another world through the rift. It doesn't matter if these two worlds are at war with each other. Somebody who is a slave, somebody who is in the aristocracy and running a house, can find each other. And not only that, but they can find the strength in each other. And they can find that as you understand the differences of culture, East meets West, and understand the differences of masculine and feminine, and understand the differences of where they came from and what they think, and culturally what they believe in. And once you start to understand those and have empathy for those and compassion for those differences, you start to become more than you were singly. You start to become more as a entity together, and you start to build on this East meets West theme. We are all, through compassion, more than we are apart. I just absolutely adored it. I absolutely adored the sacrifice of it. I absolutely adored the heart wants what the heart wants, even though every bit of cultural history is saying no to you. What can I say? I'm a softie. It worked for me. I know it didn't work for a lot of people, but I actually loved it. This one, I don't think I'll have many people not be on board with me for this one. I'm going to go from This Is How You Lose a Time War by Amol Al-Motar and Max Gladstone, Red and Blue. This was so inventive. The language was gorgeous. We have two disparate timelines. One where biological entities are ascendant, and one where mechanized are ascendant. And there is a war going on through time to see which one will come out on top, because both of these timelines have diverged and they're ascendant in each one. And while agents of one and the other start to come in contact with each other, and they start to leave little messages for each other in the most imaginative and poetic and beautiful ways, and you follow them from one message to another, back and forth through this time war, it will absolutely break your heart. And it was just gorgeous, the language and the relationship, and very, very slim volume, but it packs so much romance into so few pages. I just loved that about the book. So for me, that was a high point romance from this time on BookTube. I have to go with one of my favorite series since starting to join BookTube here, and that's the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. And I know everyone out there is going, Darrow and Mustang. No, for my pick, I gotta go Severo and Victra. This is the most perfect example of unbridled passion. Just the kind of passion that will burn you to a cinder. These two, it's that love that makes you want to eat someone whole, and it is both ways, and it is on a level of loyalty that I absolutely just cannot wrap my mind around. This relationship has blossomed over the 6 books into a family. They have built a life, they have built children, and the loyalty is off the chart. Even though Severo will follow Darrow into these situations to the detriment of his family, sometimes you never doubt where his heart lies, and it's been a cause of friction between the two brothers. I absolutely love this level of passion, that even though with everything going on in the galaxy around them, with building a family together, with history between each other, that passion never diminishes. It still burns as bright as the white hot sun, one for the other. That relationship, for me, from that series, absolutely love it. This just leaves one left, my number 10, and I left it for the last because I think it might be my number 1. This is before my time on BookTube, but if I'm thinking about a romantic relationship in fantasy or in genre, it's got to be from Princess Bride by William Goldman, Wesley, and Princess Buttercup. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about true love. Ah, you know, you've seen. So pure, so perfect. A shining, gleaming example of romantic love and fantasy. I don't have to say anything more. We all know it's one of the best kisses in history. I don't have to say a thing. You know. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you guys had an amazing Valentine's Day this year. Hit me up in the comments. I started this channel because I love comments. I love talking with you guys back and forth. What are some of your favorite romances from the books you've read? Let me know what to read next when I want to find a romance. Let me know what you thought of my list. Just hit me up. Let me know what you're reading and where we can go to find these amazing romances next in the genre that we love. Hey, while you're down there, that's this little thumbs up button. Go ahead and click that. Hey, and while you're down there, if you've stopped a time or two and you kind of dig what we do here and you haven't done it yet, hey, just hit that subscribe button. It's like crazy easy. It's super quick. It's a second. That's it. It's a second. Let me tell you something. It feels good. It feels real good. Hit that button. You'll see what I mean. Every time I subscribe to a new channel, I find one, I subscribe, I'm walking on air for the rest of the day. Just have that feeling if you like this channel. Hit that subscribe button. That's it for me, everybody. My name is John Minton, and if you came here the day after Valentine's Day to see what my top 10 romances were in fantasy and the literature and the genre that we love, that means you're book people. And in my book, that means you're the best people. Thanks so much. This has been Talking Story.